As a real estate agent, you'll encounter people looking for a variety of housing accommodation types, from single-family homes to condominiums and timeshares to mixed-use commercial properties. While 88% of first home-time buyers work with a real estate professional today, that wasn't always the case. Did you know that Sears and Roebuck sold approximately 100,000 ready-to-build house kits in the early 1900s? Often for less than $1,500, people could order a single or multi-story design from a catalog with as little as $1 down to cover the cost of millwork. The kits contained everything needed to erect a house in less than 400 hours. That means pre-cut lumber, window glass, doors, paint, nails, varnish, carved staircases, flooring, and even the hammer needed to build a wraparound porch, also included. The kits arrived via railway, and buyers typically towed the crates to their lot with a mule team, horses and a buckboard, or one of the new Model T trucks, if you were fortunate enough to be able to afford the $600 price tag after buying a house kit. Of course, things are more complicated today, with zoning laws, lot restrictions, and a complex web of tax codes. That is why people hoping to invest in real estate need a well-informed agent to help them navigate the process. So let's discuss a few of the different types of housing accommodations on the market now, starting with the single-family home. The single-family home is probably the most common property sold and bought on the market today. The percentage of single-family dwellings compared to all residential units fluctuates, but has consistently ranged between 60 and 70% since the 1940s, according to the 2011 U.S. Census. Like the Sears and Roebuck homes mentioned above, a single-family home is a residence that isn't connected to other buildings. There is space on all sides, although the surrounding area may be limited only to the required easement to comply with building codes, or encompass acres and acres of green space if built in a rural area. Unlike standalone detached dwellings, multifamily buildings have two or more individual houses connected by at least one adjoining wall, floor, or ceiling. There are many variations that include duplexes, quads, Victorian homes converted to individual living quarters with cooking and bathroom facilities, and both low-rise and high-rise apartment buildings. Although there are some privately owned apartment homes in larger cities like New York City, Seattle, and Los Angeles, most multifamily home units are investment rental properties. Classifying apartment buildings is a bit tricky because architects use terms like low-rise, mid-rise, and high-rise differently. Some identify all buildings over 9 stories tall as high-rise, while others say that buildings with less than 3 floors are low-rise. 4 to 12-story buildings are mid-rise, and anything over 13 floors is a high-rise property. The city or region could also influence how local authorities classify each building. It is best to follow the International Building Code, IBC, guidelines, which base classification on the height of occupied space. The IBC says that any structure with occupied living space higher than 75 feet above the lowest level of fire department vehicle access is considered a high-rise. Most modern high-rise apartment buildings have elevators, but also have stairs to accommodate safe, rapid egress during an emergency. In a condominium, each unit is owned individually. The units may be owner-occupied or used primarily for rentals or vacation homes. In a condominium building, all common areas, such as walkways, meeting rooms, swimming pools, and other shared spaces in a condominium arrangement, are jointly owned by all condominium owners. And homeowners typically pay monthly or annual dues to cover the maintenance, repair, and insurance expenses established by covenants and bylaws, approved and voted on by a select board and owners. Another housing type you may come across as a licensed real estate agent is the cooperative or co-op. Unlike condominiums, where each dwelling is privately owned, cooperatives are apartment buildings owned by a corporation that sells shares which entitle shareholders to exclusive, private use of a residential dwelling or housing unit. Here is something to remember when recommending this type of property to potential buyers. Co-ops aren't considered real property, since buyers only purchase the right to use the dwelling. Occupants are basically just renters, so some of the tax benefits of homeownership aren't available to co-op residents, although they may be able to take some expensive deductions, like the allowance for home office and certain qualified repairs. All shareholders must pay a common area maintenance charge, typically calculated based on the square footage of the unit they occupy. Let's step away from traditional private housing types to a commercial example, the Planned Unit Development (PUD) model. Even if you've never heard the term before, you have almost certainly seen a PUD. Commercial land developers may want to create a mixed-use area that doesn't fit any of the existing zoning and density guidelines by building individual homes, multifamily housing, retail space, and recreational facilities such as hiking trails or a baseball diamond. To accomplish this, the developer must submit detailed plans to the appropriate agencies to get approval. Approval is often based on how well the developer incorporates business and residential uses, whether the builders have considered the economic and environmental impact for residents and the extended community beyond the borders of the PUD. Speaking of mixed-use developments, there is another housing type that doesn't involve building an entire community from the ground up. Although many large cities have seen an uptick in multi-use properties in recent years, the practice of having retail space on the ground floor and apartments on upper floors isn't new. Remember those ready-to-build homes we mentioned earlier? At the same time those houses were popping up in many communities, there were boarding houses that offered private rooms for rent above a restaurant open to the public. Today, you'll find high-end apartment buildings with organic grocery stores, dry cleaners, bakeries, and internet cafes on the street level, while modern, well-apportioned apartments occupy the upper floors. Today, consumers are looking for houses to buy in neighborhoods with high walkability scores and access to everything from food to entertainment, so mixed-use properties allow property owners to maximize earning potential on every square inch of the investment. In many cases, it is a virtual trifecta. Cities increase tax revenue, investor owners can charge higher rents, and tenants enjoy the convenience of picking up their dinner or dry cleaning on the way to the elevator that will take them upstairs to their apartment. Mobile homes account for roughly 8% of all housing units in the United States, but where those homeowners live is telling. Only 6% of metropolitan units are classified as mobile homes, while rural or non-metro areas have 3 times as many mobile homes according to Population Reference Bureau. There are positives and negatives to owning a mobile home. For one thing, as the name implies, they are easy to move. They typically cost less than other new home types, although buyers may pay a higher mortgage interest rate if they need to finance. For people with limited funds, trailers may be the only real property they can afford. There are some hidden expenses associated with this type of housing. For example, only about half of mobile homeowners own the land where their house is parked. This means, on top of the mortgage, buyers have to pay a monthly rent for the space, or invest more money to purchase land, which increases the overall cost of ownership. Manufactured homes today come in single and two-story models and a variety of lengths and widths. And, although all are portable, many larger manufactured homes assembled on site are never moved once they are anchored down. Some manufactured homes are also multifamily homes, built similar to a duplex, where they are two distinct dwellings joined by a common wall. A cousin of the mobile home is the modular home or prefabricated home. In some ways, modular homes are like the kits Sears sold to 20th century home buyers, although the homeowner doesn't have to assemble the house. Modular homes are built in movable sections called modules in a factory according to a buyer's specifications or a particular floor plan designed by the company offering the home for sale. Where a new construction home typically takes many weeks to erect, once the modules arrive at the building site, professional builders can have the house ready for occupancy in about a week, barring extreme weather events. Unlike mobile manufactured homes, prefab houses are assembled on a permanent foundation, so moving is not usually an option. We have two more types of housing accommodation to cover in this lesson: retirement communities and timeshare. The first is more commonly seen as a primary residence option, and the second as either an investment or strictly a vacation home. We'll start with timeshares. Earlier, we discussed cooperatives where buyers invest in shares of a corporation for the privilege of gaining exclusive use of an apartment home. Like co-op dwellers, timeshare investors never fully own a piece of real property. They gain access to the land, a dwelling, or other real property. Timeshares fall into three main categories. The first is a fee-simple contract which results in deeded interest with a title in perpetuity. The next is a basic right-to-use or RTU arrangement where you have rights to exclusive use that expire on a given date and revert to the actual owner. This is usually 10 to 20 years. The final category is called leasehold. Like the fee simple, the property is deeded. However, it also has an expiration date like the RTU. Some leasehold contracts offer a first right to renew clause. Regardless of the category, timeshare investors are limited to the amount of time they can use the property. For example, you may have exclusive access 2 weeks out of the year, or for a specific calendar month, depending on how many other owners have an interest in the property. And now, the last housing type we will cover is retirement communities. Although there are many different types of retirement communities, all have a few similarities. Most have a minimum age requirement, usually 55 or older. Some retirement developments have an 80-20 rule, where 80% of the properties are owned by people over 55, and the other 20% are owned or leased by younger families or singles. Services that are available in retirement communities may include lawn care, housekeeping, laundry, and access to a handyman to help replace light bulbs or hang pictures. There is usually a monthly fee beyond the mortgage payments to cover maintenance of common areas and amenities. Some communities have an on-site recreation director who schedules shopping trips, arranges group discounts for local plays and movies, and invites instructors to teach classes on a variety of topics from painting and sculpting to finance and computer literacy. It is important to consider why clients want to move to a retirement community before recommending specific properties. Some want the social engagement and security of living in a tight-knit community without having to commit to the daily structure of an assisted living property. Others aren't currently facing medical challenges, but they are looking for a property that can offer them different services as they age. One community in the Dallas, Texas area offers home buyers a chance to buy a private home initially and trade up to a residence in the assisted living area on campus if they develop medical challenges. Then, transition to a retirement dorm with 24-hour care when the time comes. Homeowner preferences vary widely among different demographics and diverse geographic regions. Rural areas have a higher percentage of ownership than urban and metropolitan areas, approximately 75% to 68% respectively. People in a lower income bracket tend to buy more mobile homes, and baby boomers aging into retirement age may prefer a well-equipped retirement community close to physicians, hospitals, and grocery stores than the mixed-use property in a thriving downtown neighborhood in the city. This lesson should give you the information you need to help your clients find a home in an area that fits their needs and their budget.